Hey,
What's up?
welcome back.
We're back again. Before we start, if you can, subscribe. Afterwards, comment, like, help us with the
Like,
YouTube algorithm, but definitely subscribe most importantly. We're on our way to 100. We want that big custom URL. Don't even care about getting paid right now. We just want the URL, so help us out.
I want a channel name, URL. That's it.
Exactly. Just youtube.com/, our channel name. But anyways, we're here today to talk about the biggest diva in the NBA potentially, Mr. James Harden, once again is not happy in Houston apparently. Multiple talks today coming out about him getting traded, Brooklyn, Philadelphia. We're gonna
It's
talk
crazy.
yeah.
It sounds like they traded Westbrook just to make him happy, and then he's still not happy. He tells the players that his new teammates, "Oh, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up." Then he doesn't show up,
And he
and now he's trying to get traded in another trade. Like they should have kept Westbrook. What was
Yeah,
the point?
that's what I mean. That was my thought today too. Like for like an hour, I was thinking like this is like a relationship where like someone tells you they're unhappy, you say, "What could I change?" They tell you what to
They,
change, you do
they
it,
do it
and then
very admirably.
yeah, then they come back to you the next day and they're like, "You know what? Like this still isn't working. Like I gotta go." And you're like what did I like? I just literally like I sold my house for you. What do you mean? Like
Like
it's
I had 10 dogs. I got rid of my dogs because you were allergic,
and I
and
got
then
like
yeah, and now I'm stuck with a fucking cat, and I can't get my dogs back.
And John Wall is apparently the cat in the situation, but yeah, no, it's just I
And Westbrook's the dog. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised there.
like you said, like why not just keep Westbrook at that point? Try to trade Harden. Like I maybe it's just the offers they were getting. Maybe like who even knows what happened? Like you said, Harden said he was going to show
Good,
up. Obviously,
good trade between Wall and Westbrook, but
yeah,
obviously you're right. There's still some issues there. He still might show up. He still might prove us wrong. I still think that's what he should do. And
yeah,
Houston's going to have a pretty good team this year. Wall and Cousins are actually pretty really good players who have played before in college. They already click. Maybe that's what Harden doesn't like though. Maybe he doesn't like being a second fiddle, which kind of stupid because he'll still be the star. He'll still be the number one no matter where he goes at home. But anyways, let's get down to the trade talk because he's obviously there's a really high chance to get traded whenever superstars in the NBA they have so much control over their contracts, so much control over where they want to play. The fact that he's come out and said publicly that he's willing to go to Philadelphia and Brooklyn. Why don't we go through at least one of those teams right now? Probably more likely I can give better assets would be Brooklyn. So let's talk about a Brooklyn trade.
yeah. So I mean, we have it broken down into two separate trades. We each put
Yep.
together a trade, seeing it kind of different elements to what we think might happen here. I'm going to present my trade first. So personally, I think Houston, if they do trade Harden, there was a lot of talk about if he goes to Brooklyn, they want a huge haul, and that's just really what it came down to. We have seen some other big hauls recently, but I think Houston wants it in a different way in the sense that I think they kind of still want to compete. Like they went out, they got Christian Wood, and they did that obviously in the sense that we added a good element to our team, and he went there thinking he was going to get to compete. They added Cousins again, likely with that same element, and hope we're going to get to compete. This guy's going to get minutes for us.
Wall too, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, like we said, he got him for Harden to compete. So their goal this year with the new GM was to compete. So
Yeah.
I think even if they might get better or they might get worse maybe this year, let's say, I don't think they're going to try to go down a lot. So I have a trade that's very player oriented opposed to pick oriented,
Okay.
like some trades we've seen before. So personally,
Okay.
I have actually five players going in exchange to
Woo!
Houston,
Pause.
two going back to Brooklyn. Maybe
Okay.
again, we're not starting the season. Brooklyn, they could do whatever they want, or Houston could do whatever they want with their roster with all these players in terms of waiving guys. It's going to make them super deep. So I have so first we have Spencer Dinwiddie going to
Okay.
Houston. Obviously, going to be a great asset if Wall gets hurt, gets to be the starter. If not, he probably plays some good six-man minutes. We have Caris Levert, obviously going to, like they said, they
Start
wanted
the shooting guard. Put up 20 points.
exactly. They like they said, they need a guy. They still get a guy who could be a borderline all-star, at least good player, keep them in contention. Taurean Prince, just for mainly the salary, still a good player, but
Yep.
he like at the end of the day, for this trade to work, they need to trade DeAndre Jordan or Taurean Prince. And I don't think
Yeah, I
they're going
see
to trade.
Prince is gonna go.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade DeAndre Jordan. We
Yeah.
spoke about it before, where you said DeAndre, Kyrie said that they need a fourth All Star next to DeAndre, KD, and himself. They're not trying to. The players there don't want DeAndre to leave. So like you said to us personally,
No, that they like him.
exactly. So he'll probably stay. And with that being said, I actually have Jarrett Allen going to the Houston Rockets as
Oh,
well.
that's Allen's a future potential future All Star.
Yeah,
He
I
was
mean,
outplaying Jordan last year.
yeah, definitely. And the thing for it is at first it was iffy, but when I look at him, I could see him actually being the centerpiece of this trade. Where we look back in 10 years and we're like, that's the guy the James Harden trade was centered around. It's actually going to be Jared Allen. I could really see that. With that
That's
being
hard to
said,
say. Dinwiddie and Levert averaged 20 points per game,
he did, but that's again, that's
both of them.
almost yeah. But Allen's going to do a bit more overall, I think, versus these guys are more so just going to be almost like a Kevin Martin, where like they could put the ball in the net, but they're not going to be. We're not going to remember them in 30 years as we're going to remember maybe, like you said, Jared Allen is going to make All-Star games likely.
He's
Um,
still very young, but so we have five guys coming out of uh, Brooklyn. Who's coming out of Houston? Is it just Harden?
well, I also had I also had Rodionis Kurucs going to Houston. I
Oh
think,
yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot
yeah,
about Kurucs. Okay,
it's just a
can't
random
forget about Kurucs.
I think it's just another guy. It's just going to be a random ad. And like we saw with the win lives ad, a calculator, if you actually add him in, it actually brings Houston above a win versus you take him out, it actually makes them negative a win. So I think they could actually find some good use for Krooks. I think he fits in there pretty decently versus with their spread out style, especially going
Sure.
to the other team with who I think they're going to trade. Obviously, we're going to have James Harden going to Brooklyn here. And then as well, I actually think they're going to throw PJ Tucker. Main reason for that
Okay.
is even though Houston, I think, still wants to compete, Brooklyn's obviously the contender here. And I think PJ Tucker not only deserves, but he's established himself around the league as a guy who gets to play with good players. If he was in Houston for a reason. Everyone there, they knew what he could do offensively aside. They're like, you know what we need? We need a great defender, hard nose, gets in there, takes some bumps and bruises for us, helps us on off nights that we need it. And it's going to be the same in Brooklyn. He's obviously not going to play starter minutes, or who even knows? Maybe some magical way they'll find a way to use him a lot. But at the end of the day, if
He'll
he's
probably
playing,
come close.
yeah, like if he's even playing 23-ish minutes a game, he's going to be a huge impact player for them. Obviously, with them between Joe Harris, Durant, and whoever, they will have Jordan still at center. They do have a young kid at center as well, I believe. I want to say Nixon or Nixton, who they took in the second round
Yeah.
last year. So like they still have guys at center, but I mean they could use Tucker at center sometimes if they want. So they could use him between those three
Oh,
positions.
oh,
Ultimately,
Tucker at center.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but like in terms of just if they need a guy, if they need a guy who could do a lot, that's why I think Tucker kind of fits there. Yeah, so I think ultimately it's going to be that 5 for 2. In terms of picks, definitely it's going to be the first round pick this year. I know you
Yeah.
can't trade the 2 picks in a row, but Brooklyn, I believe, the way they traded it, they get to avoid that rule, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they traded the pick on the draft day last year with the intention of having the trade go into effect after the pick was taken. So
Right.
that way they didn't actually trade away the first round pick last year.
Right. So with that being said, the first round pick this year definitely goes to Houston because I have less picks than usual in mine compared to other trades. I actually have it unprotected.
Okay.
Same thing. I think next year they're going to do a pick swap. I actually think next 2 years they're going to do a pick swap, and then I think it'll also be a 2024 first, and then I think it'll kind of just that'll be the end of it. So ultimately, 2 first round picks will go, both unprotected, and then I think 2 pick swaps between 2022 and 2023 as well.
That's actually a lot of picks considering the amount of players that are going.
It is, but when it's the swaps, like Brooklyn knows for at least 3 years with Harden, Durant, and Kyrie that should at least be that's at the minimum they're gonna get. So I think they're comfortable at least giving the three, and then the one extra is like they have to give at least 2 first round picks, obviously at minimum.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just where it comes down to. Yeah, it is a huge haul. It's not something where personally me as a general manager I would do, but I like if they said they want him, this is what they have to do to get him.
Yeah, well, like for me, the biggest thing that you mentioned there was that unprotected first this year. I know that they're getting a whole bunch of good players with, even if Wall and Cousins don't play, they're still probably going to be a playoff team. But that could potentially go into a higher level if they do end up start trading off more of their more of their players to try to get more into a rebuild if Wall and Cousins do get hurt again and they aren't actually competing. But with that being said, that's a lot. Allen, Prince, Dinwiddie, Kurucs. Can't forget about Kurucs.
Can't forget about Kirks.
Levert, like right there, you're looking at between Levert, Dinwiddie, and Allen, you're looking at easily 55 points per game or 50 points per game. Prince probably brings in another 10 to 15. That's whenever you add them into the core that Houston already has, that makes Houston competitive.
It does.
That would actually keep them in competition for the next couple of years. And to be honest, that's somehow Houston always does this. They've
Yeah.
stayed competitive for a long time. This is saying that Wall comes back and he's at least 80% of the play he wants.
Yeah, and I mean, like you
We'll
said,
see.
too, imagine that they do have a team like this, and maybe they do get a super high pick this year magically, and then they have all these guys with this deep team. They get a lottery pick, and then they still have, like you said, an unprotected pick from Brooklyn. Ultimately, though, like, yeah, it is a lot, but Brooklyn has a lot of pieces on their team already, too. They're going to lose guys, but they went out and got Shamit, confident that if, I guess, Levert leaves, and they do have Harden at shooting guard, that guess what? They have a backup shooting guard in Shamit. And then I need a backup point guard getting rid of Dinwiddie. They really like Brown a lot too. So I think they're confident in running him backup point guard. So like if they're going all in and they really want him, again, this is what they got to do.
I can definitely see that. It's a lot of moving parts. It does keep Brooklyn a little bit weaker at the depth, like you said.
And then
I actually
with Allen
go
too,
ahead.
I mean, ultimately he gets paid next year, and you can't have DeAndre Jordan and him.
Yeah,
So unless Jordan's in this trade, like you got to get rid of one of them because otherwise you're likely going to lose Allen for nothing next year. So like,
Allen's a much better player than Jordan,
absolutely,
potential wise, this year wise, overall wise, yes. But like you said, he's gonna have to get paid next year. They can go over salary to a certain extent, but do they really want to be paying that much into luxury? A team like Golden State right now, they're really paying for that right now. They're in luxury tax hardcore. I think that picking up Oubre's $15 million contract and that's costing them about $55 million. So that's something that definitely has to be a key to watch out for.
definitely.
I I think that that's just too many moving parts. I'm more of a simpler man. Simple trades. Still a lot for him. Harden's going to get a big haul no matter what. Um, I think it's going to be a little more pick based, to be completely honest. But I still think that three good players are going to go to Houston. I can see it being just straight up Dinwiddie, Levert. That fills up the holes over in Houston, gives Houston that starting shooting guard where Harden was. He's going to put up, Levert's going to put up a lot less points. But with that being said, it's going to be more Wall and Cousins team at this point. Woods is still there. He's going to put up his decent numbers. Prince is going to be able to go there, be able to either start at small forward or be the backup power forward. He really fits in that hole very nicely that they actually need really heavily in Houston right now. Right now, they've been running at small forward a combination of Hoos and Eric Gordon. Not exactly a good combination. In this situation, it's just going to be those three guys for Harden. That way, they're able to keep Tucker as that backup center, the backup power forward role. He'll play spot minutes. He's a hard-nosed player. He's a player that shows them that they're still competing for the next couple of years. I think that just fits both teams very well. It makes it so that Brooklyn's able to keep Allen and Jordan. Sure, it does mean that they're going to have to pay Allen hard next year. I completely agree that they're going to have to pay him probably $25 million if they're able to lock him into a like Fred VanVleet contract, 4 years, 75. It's not horrible to be paying your big man 15 to 20 million either way.
Not
Jordan's
when
going
he's
to come on the books
23.
within a year or two.
Yeah, not when
Yeah,
he's
he's
23.
good.
Yeah.
I think they keep him because they want to be able to keep a future a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's going to cost them a lot of draft capital to get Harden.
Mhm.
Harden's already 30 years old. Durant's already 30 years old. Irving's getting older and older every year. These guys max out in 5 years. Allen is kind of their bridge to that next generation.
Mhm.
So I think they're able to keep most of these players, but Houston's still going to be able to have a team that's going to win 50 games. So I ran this trade in the ESPN trade machine, and it got -7 wins over in Houston, +8 wins over with the Nets. I think that's very realistic. I think it gets outweighed by the pick that Houston would get from Brooklyn. So I think that there's actually going to be a few more picks than you. Nothing too crazy, to be honest, because those three players are very similar. This trade is very, very similar to the Anthony Davis trade that we've seen last year, where essentially Dinwiddie is a better version of Lonzo Ball, and you have Prince is a slightly better version of Hart. and then Ingram outweighs Levert decently. But that's essentially how I see it. Ingram's significantly better than Levert. So essentially, there's two better players going over to that team than what went over to New Orleans, and then one player who still could be a borderline All-Star,
Hey,
but is not of the potential.
in fairness too, though, when the Lakers traded Ingram, he was
He
pretty
was not this player.
exactly. You could say Levert and him were pretty much equal.
We're very similar at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Ingram was a 15 to 20 point per game guy who we didn't know who could max out higher than 20 points.
Yeah,
And right now, Levert is a 20 point per game guy. So I think that they're a very similar level.
exactly.
But the potential was there with Brandon Ingram, and he
Yes.
was able to show it off. He was that former number 2 pick. We knew he had the capabilities of doing this. We didn't really know Levert was able to put up 20 points. That's why I give him the slight edge.
Yeah.
With that being said, Davis should also get the slight edge over Harden with the fact that he's a player who needs the ball a little bit less than Harden in his hands, and he's so much younger.
Yeah, 5 years.
He's an MVP candidate who's so much younger, right? But yeah, so I'm going to get that back to my picks. I think that's actually pretty realistic that Houston's not actually going to lose that many more games with gaining those players, and that the Nets are going to be able to win more with Harden, Irving, and Durant. You have to double team one of those guys at one point, and then the other two are going to hit that shot no matter what. I think that team just wins a lot of games. That you're able to keep Allen, you're able to keep Jordan, you're able to keep Shamet. Harris is still there. That's a really, really good team. So, but to make that happen, it's going to require at least 3 first-round picks. Looking at probably a top 5 protected next year. I say that just in case Wall and Cousins get hurt. If they end up bombing down to a lower seed for 1 year, I don't think that they're going to want to give away that potential of that happening. I don't think it would, but there is that chance. There's a even higher chance compared to your trade of that happening, just because in your trade you had Allen going there, so that team is actually going to be a stronger team to be either way without Wall or Cousins. But in my trade, the fact that they're going to get those 3 other players in that Western Conference might be a little bit more difficult to be able to compete. And if Wall does go down again or doesn't come back this year, then it's going to be very scary for that team. And so that's why I think that one's going to be top 5 protected. You get a 2023 first-round pick unprotected, and then a 2026 first-round pick unprotected. That one's just a little bit further down the line. On top of that, you're looking at least 2 pick swaps, maybe 3, but I'm going to go with 2 for now. A 2022 and a 2024 pick swap. That's just in case that the Houston team does drop a little bit. So I think that's a very, very good trade for those teams. I think that just moves the pieces equally. It gets enough star players over in Houston to be able to keep winning probably 45, 50 games this year, especially if Wall, Levert, and Dinwiddie are able to create that chemistry. You got to remember that Dinwiddie and Levert were the 2 best players on that Brooklyn team that made the playoff last year. Sure, they had Russell. Russell didn't really play every game. They were the heart and soul of that team. And I think if they are able to bring that over to Houston, then Houston's able to really create something special there without even needing Harden. I still think they should keep Harden, but that's a way that they're able to get the most possible out of a player that, let's be honest, disgruntled players in the NBA, they ruin your team. It could literally be make or break for this team for the next 10 years. You look at Brooklyn back in 2012, 2013, when they made that trade for Garnett and Pierce, that ruined their decade. It took so long for them to come back from that. But then you look at New Orleans, who is a potential playoff team next year. That one might make their team. So there's a lot of things moving parts in this trade, but it's definitely going to take a lot to get Harden out of there, just because there's someone else like Philly who wants to come in. But I think that this one is simple enough to be able to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the more simple trade is more likely. Like you said, the less moving parts typically the better, but it is the real difficult part is going to come down to if they do want to keep both Allen and Jordan, which as a team, of course you do, but I mean, like we said, financially, do they feel like they're able
It's
to?
tough.
So
It's tough.
Yeah, that's what it'll come down to. The Harden thing too. I mean, yeah, we sit here and we say how much of a diva and whatever it is, and he did have his recent strip club incident and whatever it may be. But at the same time, like
Boy,
we never know how deep a situation is because like we're all playing out there, right? It's the media always blows it out. Kobe
they
was.
got rid of D'Antoni, they got rid of Maury. So there's something broken in that system.
Yeah, and I mean, even Kobe was traded, right, to the New Orleans Hornets. It got rejected, and still Kobe Bryant finished his career as a Los Angeles Laker. So it's not impossible that James Harden stays in Houston. It's not even possible he finishes his career in Houston. We don't know. It could be fixed. It's just right now, it feels very broken, like you said.
I think that they should do everything possible to keep him. You no matter what you get, it's impossible to replace a top three MVP candidate for the last 3 to 4 years. Um, he's legitimately he's yeah. I'm gonna say a comparison here that you guys are gonna laugh at, but James Harden has put up better numbers than a 5 year stretch in Jordan's career over the last 5 years. I I'm not saying he's anywhere close to the level as Jordan, but what I'm saying is that he's in his own planet when it comes to offensive capabilities in this league right now. His defensive limitations is where it hurts him. Jordan was one of the best defenders in the league. Harden is right now currently the best shooter, the best shot creator in this league. He can shoot from anywhere. He's the best at manipulating to get to the foul line. He just does everything right on the offensive end, and including getting the assist they need him to run the ball. I think that if Brooklyn can get the trade done, then they do, just because of the you can't guard Irving, Durant, and Harden. Everyone was talking about this when it was Klay Thompson, Curry, and Durant, but it's essentially the same thing. It's cheating. So I think if they can do it, but Houston, just don't do it, man. Keep Harden. He's an MVP player. Don't do it.
Well, I mean,
Let Wall and Cousins and Harden and Wood have a chance.
yeah, that's what the goal, like I said, bringing in Wood, bringing in these guys you would think is, what it reminds me though of is when Allen Iverson got traded to Denver, where like if we look at it in terms of offensive production as a guard, James Harden is basically our Allen Iverson of just generation in terms of putting up points. Um, and if we look at that trade, thinking back to how great just Iverson and Anthony were, even though they didn't win a championship, how fun they were to watch on offense, that would be like solely having Durant and Harden.
And Harden.
You add
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving to
Irving.
where it's like, okay,
The
now
best
maybe we
the
have a
best ball
championship
handler
team.
in the league.
Exactly. So that's where the team gets very interesting, like you said. If Brooklyn has a chance to get him, yeah,
Should do it.
they should. But like again, if I'm a GM and I have to give up Dinwiddie, Levert, and another top guy like Allen, I probably don't. If I could just get rid of two of them and a couple picks, I probably do.
Heck, even in my proposal, if I'm Brooklyn, I would even consider adding on a fourth first round pick. I think back to when George got traded to the Clippers 2 years ago. They got 5 picks for him, which was a little ridiculous. But to be fair, I don't think any team's gonna get fleeced like that. That was more of a surprise. That was because they were getting Kawhi. It was kind of a twofer at the same time, right? That's the only reason why they did that one. So I can't see Brooklyn doing that. I can see them going up to a fourth first round pick, but Brooklyn, if you have a chance to get Harden, just do it because you're going to win a championship in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and that's all we have for today. We are going to come back likely with a Philadelphia trade
Yep,
version for James Harden as long as he's not traded before that because the day we spoke about Russell Westbrook,
he
he was
got traded.
and we did
I
not
know.
have time. So hopefully for our sake, we get to do at least one more of these, bring
Don't
some
get traded yet.
and that's all for now. Subscribe if you can. Like, comment if anyone's still watching and you know how to make an outro and you want to do some free charity work. Make us an outro, but we're going to go for now.
Peace.